Rewind that old VHS. We're diving deep in cheesy flicks. Yeah, we're on a vintage quest. Low reviews but high on laughs. Let's give these films a cheer. The cult classics, flops and nuts, there are topics this year. We're the Ejectables, rolling back the years, celebrating movies that no one else cheers. From backhand tunes to epic fails, we say it's all good. We're the Ejectables, yeah, we're misunderstood.
Woo! Woo! Welcome back to the Ejectables, where movie enthusiasts Bill, Ian, and Joe celebrate movies that may have been overlooked or even panned by the critics. Today we have an awesome guest. I think, did we do this with you before, Jason Miller? I forget.
Yeah, well, we did Stump the Bill.
We did Stump the Bill, our sister show. Okay, well, welcome,
Correct.
Jason. How's everything been going?
Thanks, Jason.
Great.
For coming.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here and talk about films with you guys.
We're excited to have you. And you're on break. You're a public school teacher in New York City public schools, and you have one more week, and then you're off until the new year. Is that correct?
Yes, that is absolutely correct. I work for District 75 in New York City. I teach a class of kindergarten to second grade students who are on the spectrum, and we are all very much looking forward to the upcoming vacation.
Oh,
I don't know who's looking forward to it more, the kids or the teachers.
Oh, yeah, tough call.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, Jason, you are celebrating The Last Boy Scout. Tell us why you chose this flick.
Sure thing. There's a lot of reasons. I think first and foremost, though, is that it's really one of the films that represents the end of the heyday of the spec script in Hollywood, where writers could, there's this great legend about the writer Joe Esterhaus, how he supposedly wrote a pitch on a napkin, like 2 sentences, and sold it for like $1 million at a lunch meeting. And The Last Boy Scout is written by Shane Black, who is one of the kings of the spec script, as well as the buddy comedy, cop comedy, action film. You know, obviously he pioneered it with Lethal Weapon, and in recent years has gone on to sort of refurbish the genre with the great Kiss Kiss, Bang Bang, and The Nice Guys most recently. And The Last Boy Scout is very much in that formula, directed by the late, great Tony Scott, starring Bruce Willis, who arguably was the action hero of his day. Maybe Arnold obviously could give him a run for his money, but in terms of like just the blue collar Steve McQueen, sort of everyman action hero, Bruce Willis really sort of ran the gamut. I think this was his first film after Die Hard. So there was a lot of anticipation for the film. And it's one of those movies where you would think, given the pedigree of everybody involved, it should have been, a huge success. But because of certain creative choices that got made along the way, it diminished perhaps a bit in the eyes of the viewing public when it was first out in theaters. But I think in retrospect, over the years, its reputation has sort of been a little less tarnished, and it's got a little bit more shine to it over the past couple of decades since it first came out. Also stars the great Damon Wayans. There's nobody in it who is not a talented actor. One great choice I think they made for it is that it's got Taylor Negron, who
awesome bad guy.
Most people probably would remember him as the guy who brings Jeff Spicoli his pizza in Mr. Hand's class in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He's a great comedic actor, not necessarily known for being the heavy in action movies, but he plays it so well as Milo in Last Boy Scout. And of course, there's the great scene where the dude is sort of mocking Bruce Willis, offering him a cigarette, and he keeps punching Bruce Willis in the face, and Bruce Willis eventually just goes, if you touch me again, the next time I'm going to kill you. And sure enough, the guy offers him a cigarette. He punches him in the face, and Bruce Willis just goes boom and knocks the guy's nose into his brain. And Taylor Negron is sort of there witnessing the whole thing. And true to like sociopathic, psychopathic form, does not get mad that Bruce Willis has just killed one of his henchmen, but actually sort of increases his admiration for, as he calls him, Joseph. Milo has this thing where he calls everybody by their proper first name in the film. So everybody he's not Joe Hallenbeck, he's Joseph to Milo. And, there's also Halle Berry has one of her first screen appearances in the film as Damon Wayans' doomed girlfriend who has gotten this information, this blackmail information that's going to get Damon Wayans back into they never say if it's the NFL. I guess they couldn't call the football league the NFL in it. But, he's a disgraced former football, star quarterback. And the commercialization of, gambling and the NFL and why people really enjoyed football is sort of a big theme.
It's very prescient in today's world. It's crazy.
Yes.
He was ahead of his time.
Absolutely. And the film also notable because it features the first on-screen role of the great James Gandolfini.
Who was he in the movie?
Mr. Tony Soprano. He's not even credited in the film. He plays one of the guys. There's a scene where they throw Damon Wayans off of an overpass. And he hits a car and he gets up and he's like, it's all right, everybody. I'm a professional at this. And for my next trick, and then one of those dudes is James Gandolfini. Oh, wow. He's also in the great Forest shootout where Bruce Willis's daughter saves the day by putting a gun in her cat puppet. And then she gives it to Bruce Willis and he puts his hand in there and he starts talking to the guys as the cat. James Gandolfini is the guy who's sort of taking the photos to sort of set Bruce Willis up as being the fall guy. They're going to kill a senator who is the fellow that Bruce Willis used to protect as a Secret Service agent, and then found him beating on a woman and kicked his ass for it and got fired and sort of is living in disgrace as a private eye now. That is sort of the whole very complicated backstory in the film. And there's a great mix of humor. And the film actually, the script was going to be much darker. It went through a lot of rewrites. Originally, Milo, Taylor Negron's character, was this guy who was making snuff films. And Willis's character, Joe, was going to have to save his daughter and wife from being in one of Milo's snuff films. And they decided that was too dark. And so it ends with this sort of great action set piece at the football game where Damon Wayans ends up riding a horse onto the field and throwing the football and intercepting the bullet just as it's about to hit the senator in the head. And the whole thing ends with Bruce Willis doing a jig after he knocks Milo off of the lighting rig into the propellers of the helicopter and he explodes. And it's just, a great 90s action movie excess. The other interesting thing about it, it was produced by the notorious Joel Silver, who was one of the inspirations for the film producer character that Kevin Spacey plays in Swimming with Sharks. Oh. This notorious, hard, angry, yelling all the time, cruel to everybody around him dude. And he asked Shane Black, the film was originally titled, if you can believe it, the original title of The Last Boy Scout was Die Hard.
No.
Oh, wow.
What?
And Joel Silver liked the title so much that he asked if they could use it for the film, because Die Hard, if you recall, was based on a book
by Roderick Thorpe. Yeah.
And the book was originally called Nothing Lasts Forever. And
which
so
is the sequel to the Detective. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Joel Silver liked the title Die Hard so much that they took it from the film that would be The Last Boy Scout and gave it to Die Hard.
I did not know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, there's just a lot, and as I say, it was sort of one of the last films of the spec script era. It was also one of the last films of sort of the buddy cop action movie era, which interestingly, though, did kind of get revived this year with Wolverine and Deadpool. You know, you can sort of look at the template that the last action hero lays out. And, you know, one guy's sort of this rough and tumble, grizzled, sort of hard ass, you know, been there, seen it all, nothing phases me kind of dude. And the other is this sort of wisecracking, dopey, comedic foil, you know, which is obviously Damon Wayans'. And famously, of course, The Last Boy Scout was one of those films where nobody in the Damon Wayans and Bruce Willis did not get along while they were making the film. I think it was just kind of a clash of personalities. You know, Bruce Willis at the time was arguably, as I said, the biggest star. And Damon Wayans was a very accomplished comic. You know, he was on Living Color, but this was sort of his first foray into film. It's sort of action films. You can kind of look at any other number of guys who Bruce Willis was probably, well, why didn't they cast Eddie Murphy, for God's sake, in this movie? Or why didn't they cast some, you know, someone with a bit more star, like I'm attaching myself to, you know, this guy who's a comedic TV actor, which at the time, you know, TV crossing over into film was not as big a thing as it is today. Actually, now a lot of film people are crossing over into TV.
But why?
Sadly.
Why was so? Die Hard didn't come out before this, or it did?
It did come out.
It did, and they were going to
So
still name it Die Hard, or was
well,
that?
No, that basically Die Hard was in post production and finishing up and getting edited, and Joel Silver didn't like the title of the film and thought Die Hard was and so since he was producing both films, he asked Shane Black, "Can I have this title for this film that I have coming out?" And obviously, I don't think anybody expected Die Hard to be
what it is.
And so that in turn placed a lot of expectation on The Last Boy Scout as Bruce Willis's next big action film. And for whatever reason, it just didn't click. It also had a lot of problems in post-production. I think they brought something like 3 or 4 different editors into the film to constantly keep cutting it and recutting it until they could get a version of the film that the studio, Bruce Willis, Tony Scott, everybody could kind of agree on.
Did Bruce Willis have actually a say in the final cut? Is that typical?
No,
the actors do?
I don't. At the time, you know, I don't. I think he was kind of. I think the next film, ironically, that he went to go make was Hudson Hawk.
Oh,
so this was sort of that period before Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction kind of came along. It saved Bruce Willis from this glut of lousy action films that he had gotten sucked into, and kind of really elevated him in the movie-going public's mind as a legitimate film dramatic actor. And I think Tony Scott, for him, the next film that he went and made was True Romance,
which is great. Yeah.
And has James Gandolfini in it as
Joel Silver character as the producer.
Yes, Saul Rubinek, right, is the actor's name. And yes, that movie producer was very much based on his experience of working with Joel Silver on The Last Boy Scout. And as I said, he liked working with Gandolfini so much that he took him from simply being an uncredited extra in The Last Boy Scout, and very memorably, he has that scene where he's the guy who terrorizes Patricia Arquette.
He's great in True Romance. Now,
and then not long after that came The Sopranos for him.
Yeah, right. And now he's dead. Sorry, everyone.
And sadly, Tony Scott also, may he rest in peace, tragically passed away from a suicide. Yeah.
I loved this movie when I saw it at the theater back in 91 or whatever it was. I had so much fun. And I know now, having watched it recently, because you were going to do it, why I loved it is because of all of the exploding blood squibs. The carnage in this movie is off the charts. Like, it's insane. It's like over the top goofy how violent it is. But I loved that at the time.
Yes, it's very much an action film in the Tony Scott
it's
genre.
If you look at that. If you love that 80s style, 90s, like carnage kind of action violence, this is the movie for you. If you want clear plot, and likable characters, this may not be the film for you. And I thought, like, watching it now, I found that Wayans was so weak. I did not realize how weak he was the first time I saw it. But I'm
As
like,
an actor?
as an actor in this, I'm like, wow, he has zero presence, seems uncomfortable. And I think maybe because he came from the comedic world into this new dramatic acting, but he's become much better over time. But in this, I was like, wow.
Yeah, and another thing, like Tony Scott sort of shot the film using a huge amount of coverage. So like there were cameras every, I'm sure for him coming from a TV, especially like a sketch show where it's, one
An
or
audience
two.
and everything. Yeah.
Right. It must have been such an overwhelming. And then Bruce Willis is at sort of the height of he's coming off of Die Hard. And
Sure.
he's like,
and if
now,
he has an attitude towards him, that can make him uncomfortable.
exactly.
But
and that sort of also, but that is also kind of coming from their relationship on screen too. They're very much not guys who get along in the film. And I think that kind of bled into their relationship.
Well, I think sometimes
screen.
actors don't want to, like, Ian, correct me, I think it's like method acting. Like if they have a problem with somebody, if their character has a problem with somebody, it's kind of easier for them personally to have a problem with somebody because then that
they can
translates.
feed into I mean, some actors do that. I could never do that. But
I think it makes sense though. I mean, if it depends, I guess, on your priorities. Like, are you wanting to get along with everybody or are you wanting to make a really, really true to life film?
I want to get along with everybody.
I know, right? Yeah.
I think Bruce Willis here too. He's so he's trying to do his kind of gruff, Die Hard thing again, but here he's a much less likable character. Like there's nothing to like about him in this character.
Yeah. Well, it's
I don't know. It's just
interesting. They sort of because he is supposed to be quote unquote the last boy. Like he's the guy who wants to do the right thing for this. He goes and he sacrifices his job as a Secret Service agent because he sees a woman being victimized, but he's not Superman. He's not the chest out. I'm the morally forthright. Like he is not nice to his wife. He insults his teenage daughter throughout. Like he practically calls her a slut at one point because she wants to go out to see this boy, and she's like 14 or 15, 13 years old in the film. So like he's not likable because of his personality. He's simply likable because of his motivations and the actions that he carries out.
That's fair. I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, what'd you think of this one?
Well, I worked on spec scripts that have sold for 1.75, so that still happened in the 2000s. But to me, if Charles Manson ended the 60s, this movie ended in the 80s. It was kind of a disappointment box office wise. But I think it's better than any Marvel movie being made right now.
Agreed.
I love it. I think it's I love Taylor Negron as the bad guy. May he rest in peace. Also, he was an awesome guy and really nice guy in Los Angeles if you ever met him. Shane Black, I think this is one of his best scripts next to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Wait, is it better than his Predator remake?
I didn't even see that.
So bad.
Interesting thing to note about Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and The Nice Guys is they were both adaptations.
Oh
yeah. I think The Nice Guys was called Lethal Weapon. That was the original name for Lethal Weapon, dude.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He wrote Lethal Weapon like in a week, and he called it The Nice Guys. So everyone's interchanging titles with Shane Black. It's really funny. It's I wish Tony's. What's weird, David Geffen also produced the movie. So I think the script sold for 1.75 or something like that in a weekend.
Yeah,
or
sounds
something.
Right.
Yeah. So he was on top of his game. They thought it'd be a new Die Hard. It was not. I think it came out like at a weird time, also, like in April or something.
Oh no.
Yeah, maybe
Hang on, I can look that up.
Yeah. Definitely one of the better Bruce Willis movies. After this, he did Death Becomes Her also. Did Hudson Hawk. Oof. And then there was Striking Distance, Color Money, and then Death Becomes Her, and then till Pulp Fiction. 1991 it came out.
All of those.
Yeah, Last Boy Scout came out around Christmas time, December 13th, 1991. Which is not a time for action movies necessarily, but you could see they were trying to copy that Die Hard
Yeah.
thing.
Well, did
Yeah,
Die
you
Hard
know?
come out around Christmas as well?
Yeah, that's why Die Hard, and it's set during Christmas. It's
No, no,
ostensibly
Die Hard came out. Die Hard came out
In
during
the summer, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was looking that
But
up
it's
too. I'm like, was it?
so associated with being a Christmas film.
It really
you know?
is.
It's
Yeah.
not a Christmas movie.
But
It
it is
is a Christmas
associated with
movie.
it.
It is not a Christmas movie. Oh my god.
It is
It
as
takes
much
place
a Christmas
during
movie.
a Christmas party.
It's not a Christmas
There's
movie.
no, it says ho 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 on the shirt. I got the machine.
It's not a Christmas movie, dude.
It's a Christmas
It's not.
movie.
Agree
is.
to
Well, many
disagree.
people do believe it is a Christmas movie or see it as
It's
such.
the
even during
star
the
does not think it's a Christmas movie, and Bill Narducci does not think it's a
The
Christmas.
star
movie.
doesn't even. That's mean. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
well, another sad thing is poor Bruce Willis now is sort of going through his rough
Yeah.
period, not acting due to his mental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened exactly?
He
got-
suffers from early onset dementia.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that is early.
Yeah, I can't even really speak at this point, I think.
And a lot of those films that he had been in recently that were sort of direct to video, I think were his management sort of using
Pushing.
him to make a buck for themselves, kind of saying yes to whatever came his way, to kind of maximize his star potential and monetary value at a time when he wasn't necessarily picking the scripts himself, with a lot of thought and prescience. The other interesting thing about Last Boy Scout when it was written, just to wrap, is Shane Black kind of went through his Paul Schrader period. When he wrote Last Boy Scout, he had recently been dumped and he was in a very dark place. He said at the time when he was writing it, he was smoking cigarettes and reading paperbacks. And at one point he realized he hadn't spoken to anybody or said more than like 3 words for like a week or something like that when he was writing The Last Boy Scout. So very much like Paul Schrader writing Taxi Driver, Shane Black was sort of pouring all of his angst and pathos out onto the page. And I think that anger and darkness really does kind of come through a little bit in the characters.
Yeah.
That's why there is nobody who's particularly likable or
Makes
nice
sense.
or relatable in the film. Yeah.
It's a very masculine movie. His other movie,
Yes.
Long Night, a Christmas
Oh,
movie.
good. Maybe that we should do the movie.
Yeah, we should do that. Yeah, because that
Bill,
was
next
a big
week.
one.
Well, and it's worth noting that The Last Boy Scout is so sort of notorious. You have it in your opening credits for the
that's
show
right.
here.
We
Yeah.
do.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ian, what did you pick?
I chose one of my favorite movies of all. There's sun coming into my house. I can't really see, but I chose one of my favorite movies of all time called A Midnight Clear, directed by Keith Gordon, who you may know as the star of Christine and Back to School and Jaws 2. But he's also quite the accomplished director with this movie, which is definitely a holiday movie that takes place during Christmas time, near the end of World War II in the Ardennes forest, near the border of France and Germany and Belgium. And it's about this group of soldiers that have this outpost in the Ardennes, and they encounter this group of Germans who maybe don't necessarily want to kill them. So the story kind of, unfolds from there, and it has a very strong Christmas theme. It's beautiful. It's really sad. It's well acted, beautifully directed. And the stars of this movie are Ethan Hawke and Peter Berg and Frank Whaley and Gary Sinise and John C. McKinley, Kevin Dillon. I mean, did I say Frank Whaley? But yeah, great cast,
Yes.
great direction, great setting, based on the book, I believe, by William Wharton, that I don't think I've read. But it's just a beautiful film, and I cannot recommend it enough. And you can find it on Peacock and Prime, Tubi, Freevee, and Roku. But watch it without commercials.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
commercial-
I actually quite enjoyed. I thought it was great, and it's one of those war films that pulls the neat trick of not showing the epic scope of. There's no like great Saving Private Ryan style battles or huge explosions or anything like that. It's really sort of an intimate character piece. 1 or 2 main locations.
Yeah.
Once they get to the house that they're sort of occupying, and it's really more about the experience of being at war than the war itself.
It's a very quiet, pensive film, like you were saying. It's not about the war and fighting. If you want like Saving Private Ryan, watch Saving Private Ryan.
Yes.
This is
Also quite a bit of homoerotic subtext, I thought, in the film. There's one point where they all take baths, and
Yeah, I thought that was a beautiful, I don't know, montage of that. I don't know.
well, but I think it's getting into sort of the intimacy that when you're all men
Sure.
and you're all together in a highly stressful situation where your life could end at any moment, you sort of that sort of bravado can drop away between you, and the closeness that you can find with each other is not necessarily what men would think of as, especially for the World War II generation, the sort of the John Wayne sort of mentality of
you see those guys in the IMDb reviews saying, "No, Americans would never act like this." I'm like, oh, come on. It's just you see them at one point cleaning one of their dead colleagues, and it's just beautiful. And there's also a scene earlier in the film where they meet a woman who they think is a prostitute, and they all share with her they have some sex, but they're all kind of playing her dead boyfriend in this. What, Bill?
Yes, and I also like that at the end of the film, the fates of the people.
I'm sorry.
That at the end of the film, the fates of the we don't know sort of what's going to happen to these guys. But to give some historical context, I think it's set around the time of the Battle of the Bulge.
Yes.
So, which was one of the most violent, horrific battles of World War II.
And they know the war is coming to an end, so the Germans are like, "Well, we don't want to die, knowing what's the point of dying now."
Yeah, and I also like the actors that were cast as the German soldiers. There's like the one dude who has the stark blonde hair. Very sort of stand out. Like they do a good job of giving them personalities when they don't really have much to say or do.
And they shot around Salt Lake City, I guess, in Utah, which is kind of cool. And I guess there's a lot of birch trees, and there's no birch trees over there. So I didn't know that back then. I just read it. Anyway, what'd you guys think, Joe and Bill?
I loved it. I think it's one of the best movies of the 90s. Yeah. And William Wharton wrote the book, and he did Birdie, which will be another Ejectable.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Birdie's great.
Joe,
I love
what did you think? Sorry, so sorry.
No worries. No, I just thought it was beautiful. I think it's a must see if you like Ethan Hawke, because you can essentially just watch and listen because he does the narration, and you can see the whole movie and what's going on through Ethan Hawke's eyes. Like he really went to an extreme, I think, with this film, and he's just great. Yeah, I thought it was beautifully shot, and yeah, it really took me there. I thought it was excellent. Great pick, Ian.
Thank you. Definitely seek this movie out, people. Definitely worth a look. And get Keith Gordon to direct another feature. He's doing a lot of TV now, but we need him back making movies.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, who's next?
Joe, what'd you pick?
So I did the Mean Season. I think this is going to be my favorite Kurt Russell film.
Really?
Yeah, easily. Yeah. Well, number one, I never thought he was like that attractive. He's so very attractive in this. He's great. Everything about him is good. For those who don't know about the flick, after reporting on a murder of a teenage girl, journalist Malcolm Anderson, Kurt Russell, is contacted by the killer, known as the Numbers Murderer, who offers exclusive information about the deaths. With the cooperation of the police, who taped the killer's phone calls, Malcolm agrees and soon becomes famous. Jealous of the attention the journalist is receiving for the coverage, the Numbers Murderer kidnaps his girlfriend, played by Marielle Hemingway. And I just thought it was great from go. Like I understood the character and his motivations. He's in this newspaper reporter role, and he wants out. And they actually when they were making the film, they wanted to make sure that it was very true to life. So they spent some time in actual newsrooms. Perhaps even it was the Miami Herald where they visited, but they wanted to really make sure that it felt really real. And I really loved it. I loved following this journalist and how he was just so committed to his work and at the expense of other things in his life, particularly his girlfriend, who of course gets kidnapped. Now, what did you guys think?
I was surprised I'd never seen this because I saw everything back then. And I got to say, I really enjoyed it, especially
good.
like to find something this subtle and grounded in the mid 80s.
Yeah.
It's just a good little thriller. I could see that maybe Seven took some ideas from it. Obviously, Seven is a little bit superior, but I
Yes.
really this is a good little thriller. I would totally recommend it. So good pick, Joe.
Thank you.
And Robert Wise, I guess, was supposed to direct this.
Oh, really?
West Side Story, and he wanted to make this in black and white, but the studio was like, nah, so he dropped out of it. But
wow.
interesting. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
glad it's not black and white.
but again,
Well,
yeah,
I did the screenwriter take his name off it. Christopher Crowe, who's awesome. He wrote Off Limits and another Ejectable. That movie's awesome.
I mean, there are moments in this film that you're like, oh, why would they do that? Or, but maybe some reporter would have done some of these bad choices later on in the film.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot to like here, and it pulled me through. The director, I guess, died 10 years after making this. And Richard Jordan, who plays the bad guy, he died from a brain tumor 10 years after making this.
Oh, he did.
Yeah,
And
not even 10
it's-
years, like 8 years.
It's also
That's a shame.
peak time for Kurt Russell in terms of his career. Early 80s Kurt Russell,
Oh, yeah.
do no wrong as far as I am concerned. That's around the time of The Thing and Big Trouble in Little China.
Used Car.
From New York.
Yeah, Escape from. I mean, his John Carpenter run.
Yeah.
I always wondered why he wasn't in They Live.
I think
Ooh.
maybe he was done bombing with John Carpenter.
Yeah, and sort of, but great actor, just so versatile, can do comedy, can do drama, can as we sort of have seen in his resurgence, thanks to Quentin Tarantino again, right? Quentin Tarantino seems to have a gift for taking actors like Kurt Russell and Bruce Willis and finding the things about them that are so innate and skillful and writing characters for them that really speaks to their strengths as an actor.
There's some really strong scenes in this film and some really nice performances. Some stuff really stuck with me, like the baby being pulled from the dead mother in the woods. Like that's just like, oh, pretty stunning scene. But anyway, what do you think, Bill?
The music was awesome. I remember seeing it was on HBO all the time as a kid. They don't make movies like this anymore. It like a drama / thriller now would be on Apple TV for 10 episodes, just being totally stretched out.
Mhm.
Definitely one of the best Orion movies of the 80s.
After RoboCop.
Oh yeah, after Married to the Mob, I mean, I miss Orion. They made these mid to low budget movies, and
Did Anna and the Apocalypse, just so you know.
Orion did? Oh, look at that. I know. That's a good movie. That should be an Ejectable.
It was last week.
Definitely recommend it. It's streaming on Tubi, and if you have Screenplex, it's free on Screenplex for 7 days. So highly recommend it.
Yeah.
So
what did you do?
I did Trapped in Paradise.
Ooh.
Fox comedy from 1994. It's definitely gotten better over time. It was a humongous bomb when it came out. And the guy that wrote and directed it, he wrote and directed 29th Street right before, which is an amazing.
That was a good movie.
Yeah, from the 90s. And he wrote Midnight Run, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. And he wrote Wise Guys, which has a great concept, but got the palmed up. Definitely a very quirky type of movie. And it follows three brothers, Nicolas Cage, John Lovitz, and Dana Carvey, as former criminals that are they're related, and they get Nicolas Cage is trying to go straight, and he gets conned into traveling to a small town called Paradise, Pennsylvania, where they find out there's a bank there that is the easiest bank to rob. So they decide to rob the bank. But the trouble is it's Christmas Eve and there's a crazy snowstorm. So they keep getting stuck in this small town trying to get out. And they, through a series of unfortunate events, they learned the meaning of Christmas. And I'm not going to ruin anything else, but it's definitely... I saw it in the theater. I loved it when I saw it in the theater. It bombed massively. Everyone involved with the movie hates it. John Lovitz hates it. George Gallo hates it. I don't know about Nicolas Cage. Dana Carvey, I'm sure, hates it. He did Clean Slate, I think, right before, and that was a massive bomb, and that was a big script as well. So, but it gets better over time. There's a lot of funny lines in it. I think George Gallo wanted to do like a Midnight Run type of movie with like 3 dirtbags. Instead, he got Nicolas Cage during his comedy period. He just did Honeymoon in Vegas before. So he was a big comedy star, and then he had John Lovitz, who's actually the most realistic in the movie, and then Dana Carvey with this whacked out performance. They all seem like they're in different movies, but it works really great. What'd you guys think?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, I had read Dana Carvey, since you mentioned his performance, was basing his character on a young Mickey Rourke and the famous agent Brad Gray, who was part of the Brillstein Gray agency at the time. And the studio actually wanted him to stop doing it. And Nicolas Cage was the one who encouraged him to keep doing it. And it, you know, it's because it must be interesting being Dana Carvey, right? Because no one casts you to just be Dana Carvey, right? So he has to come up with something to do.
And this is right at the time of Wayne's World and all that. He's got to top that.
Right. And the brothers
was Wayne's World beforehand?
Yes.
It was. Okay.
And the brother, you know, they're from New York, the brothers, and they're playing criminals. So I don't know if he sort of got off on this like kind of Pope of Greenwich Village kind of kick, you know, and came up with the idea to do, because it's a spot on Mickey Rourke impression. Like it is like they might as well have gotten Mickey Rourke.
But like spot on for SNL, I think, but not spot on for like a believable.
Yeah, well, because he's kind of trapped. Like he has to emote, and he has to. And the other funny, the thing that I sort of loved about it was the running gag of the movie is that he's a kleptomaniac.
Yeah.
So every scene that he's in, he's got this trench coat on, and he's either shoving things in it. It becomes like sort of like you know, Bender's stomach in Futurama. You know, anything that you need can be in Dana Carvey's trench coat. And it's sort of at the end of the movie, without giving too much away, because sort of Dana Carvey and his trench coat kind of saved the day for the three of them at the very end of the movie. So it's sort of this, and as also Bill says, John Lovitz kind of is the most sort of straightforward, relatable character. And he's sort of playing off of his Tommy Flanagan sort of, that's the ticket. That's the, you know, that sort of liar character that he did on Saturday Night Live. They're all kind of, they're kind of all doing these New York accents, you know, when Nicolas Cage, you know, they're all kind of talking like this. It kind of is a lot to endure for the, you know, the length of the movie. And Nicolas Cage is, as Bill says, coming off of his comedic run, but he's supposed to be the straight man. You know, Dana Carvey and John Lovitz are supposed to be the wacky brothers, and casting Nicolas Cage as the guy who's supposed to be the sort of because he does not play it as a straight
does his
man.
Nick Cagey stuff. I think Lovitz is probably the most straight man of the three of them, the most grounded of them. I saw this movie when it came out, and I think because I was a Wayne's World fan and stuff, I was excited to see this. And I didn't like it. I can't say I hated it, but I was like, what's going on here? And so chaotic. And I left the theater sort of with my head buzzing, like, I don't know what just happened. And I found, like, at the time, Carvey was annoying. And I was just like, what was this? It was so broad and all over the place. But having watched it the other day with my phone in hand, the fire on, you know, people moving around the house, it was perfect, like, holiday entertainment, kind of filling up the room. It is so chaotic, but it's got a good Christmas vibe. Ebert hated it, and he said it should be preserved by the Library of Congress as an example of creative desperation.
Ooh.
They were saying, I guess Lovitz was saying that Gallo didn't even direct it, that Nick Cage was taking over scenes, like Gallo just let them do whatever. And I think it shows, but it's fun nowadays.
There's a lot going on the plot. You know, there's there's like a romantic comedy through line between Nicolas Cage and Madchen Amick, who's like barely in the movie.
And what was up with her accent? She had like a New
She's
York.
supposed to be from New York.
Right,
She's
because
the
she's
perfect
the
gangster.
secret daughter of
The gangster.
the gangster guy who breaks out of jail.
You weren't paying attention, Ian.
I
How dare you?
lost. I stopped paying attention to some point, but I still had fun this time.
Yeah, she was beautiful. She's amazing. Oh, I love her.
Yeah, and she, I think, had Twin Peaks had been
Yeah.
out yet
Yeah,
at that
before,
point,
Did
right?
that James, and she did that James Spader movie,
Dream Lover,
Yes.
right? Dream Lover with James Spader. I like
Ooh,
that.
that sounds like that could be good.
Oh,
That is
that's
Maybe that'll
so
be-
up
Joe's
your alley,
alley.
Joe. Joe, you
Dude,
would love
that is a
that.
Joe ejectable.
What's it
Oh,
called
that's
again?
music before seeing it. Dream Lover.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, we're gonna
You're
do
There were
that.
two
You're gonna love
versions of it.
Dream Lover. So, guys, outside of your movie, if you had to choose your favorite pick of today's episode, what movie would you choose? Ian, you first.
I'm choosing The Mean Season. That was a nice surprise.
You-
Thank you, Joe.
Oh,
I am.
awesome. I'm really
It's a very nice
glad.
surprise. Thank you.
Awesome,
Jason?
Jason.
I got to go with A Midnight Clear.
That's my first win.
Any movie with the great Frank Whaley. Frank
Yeah,
Whaley
he's
is just
great.
one of those great. Anytime he's in it, even if it's just a small, tiny bit, he's just such a great character actor. He brings so much to.
We did career opportunities on this show.
We did do that. That's right.
Yeah.
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 And
Bill?
Joe?
He's fantastic.
I'm gonna do Last Boy Scout, so you're gonna be the tiebreaker.
I'm going to do A Midnight Clear for sure.
Oh, Ian wins.
I
He
win
gets
the
a
first
second
time.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
see him in that clear.
It's
It's
beautiful. It's a beautiful film. It's
It
beautiful.
really
film.
is. It's a
Really.
wonderful movie.
Jason, thank you for joining us. It's been
Yeah.
It
awesome.
was awesome.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. Happy holidays to
Yeah.
you all.
Enjoy that day off. Thanks to that one student.
Yes.
Yeah, will you
yes.
celebrate another film with us, Jason?
Of
at some point
course.
in the future.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to be back.
Awesome. Well, we're
And
gonna
in fact, I see
forward to
an
that.
excellent potential, but right behind Ian, right there, The Frighteners,
Bill did
highly
it.
underrated.
Bill
did it.
already.
He
Ah.
likes the poster, but he doesn't like the movie.
The poster is so much better than the movie. It really is.
The
Look at
movie's
Freaky.
awesome, but he has
The
the
movie
poster
is
framed.
so great. I mean, if
couldn't
you're a
throw that
Peter
out.
Jackson fan, it's one of his best.
I like the
movies.
ones
Yeah,
before it.
Jason, would you have a poster up framed of a movie you kind of liked? No.
It's 3D. How cool is that? It like moves.
Well, keep in mind, I did work at Marvel Studios for a time, so I might have like a couple of posters framed for movies that were just okay.
yeah.
Pre Marvel Studios period. We're talking like Jennifer Garner's Elektra and Ben Affleck's
yeah.
Daredevil. Like,
Hot.
yeah,
All right,
All right,
everybody.
well,
We'll,
thanks,
we'll see you
Jason.
next time. Okay. Thank you. again,
absolutely,
Jason.
guys.
Thanks,
Have a
everybody.
Have a good holiday, everybody.
You too. Bye bye.
Pop the popcorn, grab a Coke, and find that old VHS. We're diving deep in cheesy flicks. Yeah, we're on a vintage quest. Low reviews, but high on laughs. Let's